Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by the Hard Truth Distilling Company in Brown County, Indiana.
So for the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, it's time!
Three on the way. Oh! It went in! It went in! And Indiana wins the ball game!
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni!
Float game for the win! Ayla's gone. Come on, touchdown, Indy! Woo! IU! America! They got a football team now!
Pretty simple. I win. Google me.
You know that I'm the cream of the crop.
Now, from the Hard Truth Studios, here's Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio. So glad to have you along on this Wednesday. Hope everything is going right for you. You've made it halfway through the week, so you've got that going for you. Lots to get through. Looking forward to talking to our friends Dylan Sinn, Kyle Neddenriep, and Rick Bozich, of course. Get us caught up on all the things that are going on all over the place. Of course, lots of things happening this week. Nothing bigger than the anticipated Indianapolis 500 on Sunday. Looking forward to that, but also the Pacers getting started. I believe that starts tonight, right? The playoffs. Game one of the Eastern Conference Finals. Pacers and the Knicks. Nothing bigger than that. Looking forward to that getting started. So hoping the Pacers can move on and get to the NBA Finals. That is going to be something and a fun deal to watch. So hopefully they'll make it. It's going to be a battle, but that everything in life, if things in life were easy, it wouldn't be much fun. So looking forward to that. College football, not that far away, man. It's we're not that far from June. Let's see, what are we? Another week away from the month of June. The month of July, you've got the Big Ten football media days going on, which happens out in Las Vegas this year. So Dusty Banner says the Pacers get zero love nationally. Yeah, they were not picked to win the last series, so that's fine. But that's great. Let them be that way. Let them fly under the radar, and well, not under the radar so much, but let them be the underdog. The Knicks are the underdogs as well. I mean, they knocked off Boston, but Indiana knocked off the number one seed. So I think this is going to be as good a series. It's going to be fun. I think it goes 7 games. I really do. The Knicks are good, and they're relatively healthy, as are the Pacers. So this should be a straight up good series. I'm looking forward to it. I'll tell you that. And there's no reason not to. If you're and plus playoff basketball is fun to watch. I mean, it doesn't matter about, even if you're not so much an NBA fan, it is a fun, these games, they get after it. And it is worth watching, especially because I think they're going to win. I think they're going to win. We'll find out. That's all you can do is tag along, watch the games. That's what they're there for. How about football this year? Who do you think is going to be the top football teams? Is Penn State going to be the top team out of the Big Ten? We'll find out. Got lots of jumping on. Appreciate everybody joining on the hotline as well. Message board. Tyrone and Dusty Banners, Mike Shenanigans, and Michael Music, Dwayne, John over in Southport. I don't want to miss anybody. But yeah, plenty plenty happening as we get closer and closer to the thing about college football is we don't know who's going to be good. I mean, really good. In the Big Ten, I don't know what Oregon's going to be like. They're always a little different. Hank's getting all excited today. He's wanting into the deal. He's all fired up. Hank, the producer, HTP, wanting some camera time, I think. Did Oregon get better? Or did the Big Ten opponents get better or worse? Ohio State, Penn State, Indiana listed in an article that I see here. The Oregon Ducks are facing a lot of turnover from last college football season, losing starters like quarterback Dylan Gabriel, tight end Terrence Ferguson, receiver Tez Johnson, defensive lineman Derek Harmon, and offensive lineman Josh Connerly to the 2025 draft. The Ducks lose a lot. Much of their Big Ten competition will look very different coming into this season. Which teams change for the better? Which teams change for the worse? Well, the Buckeyes also lost their offensive coordinator, Chip Kelly, who took his talents to the Las Vegas Raiders. So you've got to change there. Receiver Emeka Egbuka, who was selected in the first round of the 25 draft, starting quarterback Will Howard, who was also selected by Pittsburgh, the Steelers in the 2025 draft. So there's a lot of loss there. Let's see. The new look Buckeyes will debut a new starting quarterback. How's that going to change things? Julian Sayin. Buckeyes coach Ryan Day was active in the transfer portal in the offseason. Let's see. Yeah, I'm not seeing much change there. Penn State, James Franklin went out of the transfer portal, secured the Nittany Lions' most exciting wide receiver since Jahan Dotson. So they're, Penn State not known as a team that throws the ball a lot, but we'll see. They've added some pieces. Indiana coach Kurt Cignetti took college football world by storm last season, leading the Hoosiers to an 11-2 season and a college football playoff berth. We all know the Hoosiers will visit Alton Stadium on October 11th, but this time with a new quarterback at the helm, of course, in Fernando. They call him Martinez in this piece. Fernando. Is it Martinez? Alberto Fernandez. I can't remember. But Fernando, who ranked 5th in ESPN's transfer rankings. So, got that going. I think that there's so much change, it's going to be very interesting to see how it goes. I don't know who is going to. I don't know what Oregon's going to be like. That's the thing. They always managed to be pretty good, though. Indiana, hey, I've already told you what I think about them. You've got Illinois, Iowa, that are going to be up there as well. So it's going to be very interesting. Fernando Mendoza. How'd they get that wrong? Yeah, they got that wrong. Alberto Mendoza. I'm not sure how they got that right or wrong, but they sure did. Not Martinez, man. Not Martinez. So, Heath just ordered his football tickets yesterday to UCLA and Purdue. Both of those games on the back half of the season. Oh, Purdue's an away game, by the way. So you're heading up to up north for that one. Yeah, that's one of the away games. Indiana with 5 away games on the schedule. That one's going to be a tougher game this year than people think. I really believe that. Purdue getting a little bit better. Hey, we've got plenty more coming up from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. Joining us next, Dylan Sinn from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette. We've got plenty more to get to. Back with all that and more after these break from our great sponsors like Cheryl Sizemore, who is the greatest realtor in the world, by the way. If you're looking for a home, reach out to Cheryl Sizemore. Cheryl Sizemore sells at gmail.com with Brick and Ivy Realty. We're back with more on the other side right after these messages.
Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue, and you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemooreSells@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive.
Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios, joined now by Dylan Sinn from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette. How are you, sir?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on, Jim.
Always a pleasure, man. What's it like up in Fort Wayne today?
It is very rainy again. We had
Really?
Yes, it is. It rained all day yesterday. It is raining today. It is cold. It does not feel like springtime out here. We had the tin caps were rained out after 5 innings last night. So hoping for better tonight.
Yeah, the tin caps rolling on. I think they they preempt our show about every day, it seems like. But yeah, it's sunshine outside right here in Bloomington today, which it was kind of danky yesterday, but I guess the spring weather. Yeah, we had a tornado hit Friday in Bloomington, in like 5 miles from here. It was weird though. I was talking about this yesterday. It's as if it hit and bounced and then hit again, because there was not a long path of damage. It was where it hit was like a bomb went off, and then it hit again, and like another bomb went off. But yeah, that's spring, and it happens every year, unfortunately, and that's the part of life of living on planet Earth. It just is what it is. It's not like it's something that we don't know is coming. What's new with you, man? What's going on?
Yeah, not a whole lot. Just like you said, getting into the meat of tin cap season now. It is baseball season, and of course, now that transfer portal season is kind of over, I'm working on some kind of roster reset stories for the paper as well, so you can expect those here in the next several weeks. So looking forward to that. But yeah, basically this is the time of year when baseball is king, and we're just kind of trying to ride it out until we get to football training camp in later in the summer.
Yeah, right now at the Hoosier.com, there's a great piece out by Alec Lasley talking about Thomas Bryant and OG Anunoby squaring off in the NBA Finals. The conference finals, with a spot for the NBA Finals on the line. But those two former Tom Crean players, and there's some Tom Crean quotes in that story by Alec Lasley. So, like I said, go to thehoosier.com on 3. If you don't have a subscription, get one. But another great piece in there about that, because pretty cool that you've got two former Hoosiers squaring off in the NBA playoffs, because while Indiana has generally been the team in the Big Ten that put teams in the NBA, that has slowed. I mean, Tom Crean put a bunch in the NBA.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, not only are OG Anunoby and Thomas Bryant both Hoosiers, I believe they were from the same recruiting class. If I'm remembering correctly, I think that was 2015. It was Thomas Bryant, OG Anunoby, and Juwan Morgan was also in that recruiting class. Juwan Morgan, who also played a little while in the NBA. So really, really good recruiting class, 3-man recruiting class there, and it was the key pieces of that 2015-16 Big Ten championship team for the Hoosiers. So yeah, huge deal for them. It's great for Thomas Bryant especially, who has really had to scrap and claw to stay in the NBA and become a really valuable piece of basically every team that he's been on. But it kind of seems like his career has followed a pretty similar pattern, where he goes to a team, they don't expect him to be particularly important, and then he plays so well that they keep having to give him more minutes. And that, of course, that happened again this year with the Pacers, where they kind of got him as a guy who they thought was going to be pretty deep on the bench, and he has played very well, and he played very well in the closeout game against the Cavaliers in Game 6 in the semifinals. And so he's going to get more minutes going forward probably, and he keeps plugging along and keeps finding a way, and really good story for him. And of course, OG is a huge piece of that Knicks team, so really good job by both of them. And of course, we would be remiss, as we're talking about Hoosiers in the NBA here, Khalil Ware yesterday named second team all rookie for the NBA. So good for him as well. So even the more recent Hoosiers getting some shine as well.
He's going to be a player, man. I mean, he already is a player, but he just has the talent. He just has everything. He's the build, the size. I think he has the want to. Obviously, you can't get to where he's gotten without having the want to, because it takes desire. So, man, I think there are a lot of good things ahead for Khalil Ware as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he really became a much more well-rounded player as the season went on. You could tell he was developing his game as a guy who was 20 years old when he entered the league would, right? Like there's his athleticism and his physical tools are so off the charts. And then if you give him a little bit of NBA development and you keep him working, he is going to get much better. And there's a high ceiling for him there. So he turned into a great 3-point shooter as the season went on. He's a shot blocker. He's a rebounder. He runs the floor. He does a lot of things you really want in the NBA. So he is going to be a piece for that Miami Heat team as they kind of try to rebuild here following the Jimmy Butler trade. And I think he's going to be a piece for them going forward. He will be a part of the next Miami Heat playoff run. And I think that's pretty exciting for him. They got that right with picking him in the middle of the first round last year.
Yeah, and Indiana still getting guys to the NBA, which is very, very important, because it shows the quality of talent you have coming through. And I don't care if it's a 1-year player or a 4-year player. You have to produce teams to the NBA. Just like if you're going to win a national championship, you have to have an NBA player or first round NBA player on your roster. That's just a fact that goes back to I don't know how long that goes back, but I'd say it's pretty far back. But congratulations to all those guys as the NBA Finals, this tournament, this NBA playoffs has been fun. It's really been fun because you've had upsets. The Pacers upsetting the number one. Well, they went through Milwaukee, but then upset Cleveland, the number 1 seed, and then you have the Knicks upset the number 2 seed, Boston, and now we've got this great redo in the Pacers Knicks coming back. I know they played a few years ago, but it was not the conference finals. I believe it was the semis, right?
Well, last year they played in the semis.
Yeah. So this goes way back to Reggie. This is going to be fun. It's going to be hyped up. You're going to be at Madison Square Garden, Spike Lee, and all that stuff. Reggie's going to be there. He's probably going to be on the mic.
He is calling. He's calling the whole series. Yeah.
Boom. So what more could you ask for? And then halftime, you've got Sir Charles. I mean, this is so great because the other finals is being carried on ESPN, I believe.
Yeah.
And this one is on TNT, rather. And so we get Sir Charles and all of those guys. Perfect. I couldn't ask for anything more. And it's going to be a fun thing.
Yeah, absolutely. The Pacers released a really cool video yesterday, kind of basically comparing the current team, doing some kind of fun video stuff with the current team versus those teams with Reggie Miller in the 90s versus the teams with Paul George and Roy Hibbert in the early 2010s that beat the Knicks in the playoffs. I believe it was the 2013 playoffs where they beat them in the second round when the Knicks were the number 2 seed and the Pacers were the number 3. So a lot of fun series from these teams over the years, and they played each other on a regular basis in really big spots. Now this is kind of the next iteration of that rivalry. And it should be a lot of fun. I think these are 2 really good teams that are playing with a ton of confidence right now, especially after closing out both of their series the way they did against teams that people had expected to go further. So the game 1 tonight at Madison Square Garden, can't ask for anything better at this time of year.
No, and Madison Square Garden, you mentioned that. It is the mecca of sports in this country, just a unique place. And so you add that to the mystique as well. And the Pacer fans, they are way behind this team. It's going to be a rough place for the Knicks to play when they come in to Gainbridge Fieldhouse, and that place will be electric. So Madison Square Garden will be electric. It's just going to be a really, really fun thing to watch, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that atmosphere is probably going to be one of the best in the NBA in quite some time. I mean, the Knicks have not been to the conference finals. I think this is the first time since 2000 for them, and so they're looking for their first championship since 1970. So yeah, and this is a city that really, really values the Knicks. Whenever the Knicks are even close to being good, New York is excited. Right, that this is not some team that they really don't particularly care about. This is their team in a lot of ways, and so it is going to be an absolutely incredible atmosphere tonight. And if the Pacers can go in there and steal one and really take the home court advantage away, that is going to be enormous for this series. And hearing how there are some arenas that when they are silent, like with a capital S, and Madison Square Garden is one of those. If the Pacers can do that, that'll be really, really fun for them and really important for the series.
And that's something the Pacers have been successful at doing. They did that in the last series, of course, to really, not only did they win 1, they won 2. And that just took the heart out of Cleveland when they did that. And, winning 1 won't do that to the Knicks, but it certainly gets an advantage back to you if you can do that. And it sends a message. So, yeah, and I'm sure the Pacers are thinking that very same thing, as is Rick Carlisle, coach of the Pacers. They want to get in there and steal a win and steal a home court and really secure home court advantage for themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, you want to set the tone for the series as well. The Knicks have been very physical in these playoffs. You want to show that they are not going to push you around. I think that's something that is probably going to happen early in this game tonight. There's going to be some moment where someone from the Knicks, maybe Mitchell Robinson, maybe someone else, tries to set the tone in a physical way, and the Pacers are going to kind of have to basically stand there toe to toe with them and say, we are not going to be intimidated in that way. So I think that's going to be pretty exciting to watch, and it should be a lot of fun. And I think this series is going to be one of those where if you are going to have to take some punishment when you go into the lane. People talk about how the NBA doesn't really do that anymore. Well, I think this series is going to be one of those. And whoever is tougher going into the paint, especially with Jalen Brunson playing the way he does, where he tries to get into the paint, he tries to draw contact, and he tries to get to the foul line. Whoever is better at playing that kind of game is going to win this series. And I think the Pacers are going to have to try to set the tone in that way tonight.
Yeah, it's if people think the NBA is not physical, they're out of their mind.
Yes,
it is as physical as it gets all the time. Just watch anybody trying to get from the free throw line, dribbling to the rim. Watch, they're getting bumped the entire every dribble they make. I've made this comment. It cracks me up. I'm like, it's like when I was younger and we would have like an 8.5 foot or 9 foot goal and have games on those goals. It was a blast because everybody could dunk. But let me tell you, if you were successful dunking, you didn't come out of there not bloodied. It was just a beat the crap out of you. There were like no fouls. And that's almost like it is in the NBA. It's brutal. I mean, it's a very, very physical game. So if people think otherwise, they're wrong. They do call a lot of things, but there's a lot of physicality that is allowed. And it's a big man's league, man. It is not for the faint of heart. You have to be able to take a lot of physical jostling and maintain anything that you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one thing about this series, you're going to see a kind of a coming out party, I think, to some extent, for Andrew Nembhard and Aaron Nesmith for the Pacers. Those are guys that the wider NBA world doesn't really know a whole lot about, but they're extremely good players. They're very important to what Indiana does, and they're going to be very important to what Indiana does in this series because the Knicks are long and athletic on the wing, and you're going to need them to be able to create on offense through the Knicks perimeter defense, which is very, very good. And you're going to need them to be able to guard guys on the perimeter like Josh Hart. And so I do think it's one of those things where those aren't household names, but if this series goes well for the Pacers, they might well be in a couple of weeks. I think that is kind of a key for this series is how well those guys step up. Can they create? Can they hit shots? Can they take some of the scoring load off of Tyrese Halliburton and let him kind of do his thing as a facilitator rather than having to be a 30-point a game scorer? And so they've done that all playoffs. They've done that all season. They did it in last year's playoffs to some extent. Need them to really, really be big in this series. Take that physicality and turn it against New York and make it a liability for them. And I think that is going to be a key in this series as well.
Dylan Sinn from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette with us here at Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. Back with plenty more right after these messages.
Know a team or group needing a fundraiser? Boost Fundraising raises more money faster and offers the most unique and user-friendly online fundraiser in the nation. Your team receives personalized fundraising pages for each team member. Free team-branded promo gifts shipped to each donor. Boost Fundraising does it all. Sports teams, marching bands, charity causes, and community groups. Go to boostfundraising.com and be sure to enter the promo code COYLE, that's COYLE, to receive a discounted fundraiser. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, You can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the hard truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the hard truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive.
Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Wednesday. Glad to have you along and glad to have Dylan Sinn from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette with us as well. Dylan, we're in the off season, but man, oh man, Indiana has been very busy. They had to put basketball. They had to put together, as everyone knows, an entire roster under new head coach Darren DeVries, which they have done that. But what I am impressed at is how they hit the recruiting trail after that. And I mean, hit it hard, which, you have to do that. But they had been very busy. All that had to be done, not only just putting together a roster, putting together a staff. So he had to put together the entire staff, put together the roster, and then they hit the recruiting trail, and they have hit it hard because they have been talking to some of the best players. They've offered a lot of guys, several offers that have gone out. Chase Branham has gone out. You've got Prince Alexander Moody, Trey Thompson, as well. Just lots of guys. And the event that happened down at where was it? Memphis in Nike event down there. So all kinds of events going on and hitting the road and recruiting. And they've been very, very busy talking to some elite talent.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's interesting, especially that they're getting an early start in the 2027 class, but the 2026 class is going to be interesting for me because they brought in a lot of guys. They brought in a lot of guys this offseason that are going to be 1-year guys, only have 1 year of eligibility left. And so you're going to have to hit the transfer portal again relatively hard next year. And my question is, how many freshmen are they going to bring in next year? Well, how big is that 2026 freshman class going to be? Because there is a world in which they bring in 4 or 5 freshmen next year to try to say, hey, we don't want to hit the transfer portal too hard. We would rather build this from the ground up going forward, because you don't want to bring in 10 transfers every year. That's not an ideal way to build a roster. So, or at least I don't think so. Maybe we'll find out in the coming years that it is. Maybe you'd rather turn over the roster every year. I kind of doubt that, but we'll see. So it is one of those things where I think obviously out of necessity, they did that this year, but maybe next year you bring in a big high school class and you build with them going forward. And I think that might be something where if you're going to do that, that's what this would look like, right? You offer a lot of guys early in 2026 as early as you can and start early on 2027. I think that's something we might see going forward from this team.
Yeah, well, that will be interesting because I've just always been under the thought that I don't think you should bring in more than 3 freshmen in a class, because you should be your cycle should be such that should be your need, for partly because it is the likelihood of a freshman staying all 4 years is not very high anymore.
Sure.
And unless they are like a Cooper Flag, an impact freshman that is going not necessarily as good as that's a superstar, but someone that's going to be an impact player. I get that, but other than that, man, I don't know how much you can count on the guys being there now, unless you sign them to a multi-year deal. That's different, which is a bail. You can do that. But yeah, I wonder, I wonder, like you, do they plan on bringing in a ton of freshmen? Because if they do, though, where does that put them? Because then you're going to have a lot of freshmen you're going to have to lean on, because we know that during the season, you're ultimately looking at 9 guys, maybe 10 playing in a rotation for Darren DeVries. But so are they going to contribute? You always have to be thinking that who's going to be the contributors. It's now it's the Kirk Cignetti mantra of production over potential. So that's something that I look at as well.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely a philosophical question. I'm interested. So this offseason, we knew they were going to bring in a ton of transfers, right? There was no other way around it. If they were losing basically everyone, it was the only way to go about doing this. I am fascinated about how they think they are going to approach next season because the way this roster sets up, they're going to have about 8 or 9 open roster spots going into next season, right? They only have 3 or 4 or 5 guys. I can't remember the number off the top of my head. I should know that. I apologize. But they're only going to have 3 or 4 or 5 guys who have eligibility left at the end of this season, based on the guys they brought in. So what do you do after that? How do you bring in freshmen to fill some of those holes? Do you go hit the transfer portal hard again? Probably some combination of the two, right? I think we're going to find out a lot about Darren DeVries' actual program building philosophy starting next offseason. Obviously, that will be impacted by how well they play this year. If they have a great season, momentum builds, you might be able to bring in some really high-level guys because he will have had proof of concept, that kind of thing. I think we're going to see a lot about his philosophy, how he would ideally like to build things, and what his plans are for the longer-term future next offseason. This offseason, 10 transfers by default, right? By necessity. There was no other way around it. Next offseason, we'll kind of start to see what he actually believes about how to build a roster to win championships in the modern world of college basketball. And I'm fascinated by how that plays out.
Yeah, and then everyone, some IU fans are always going to wonder about Indiana kids, how they are going to fit into that philosophy, which my philosophy is if they're a top recruit, a top player, they're going to get recruited. But if they're not elite, if they're not someone that's looked at as can help or impact the program, I don't see the point in recruiting someone. I don't care where they're from. I don't care if they're from Bloomington. If they're not going to impact the program, don't recruit them. Go get the best. Go get the guys that are going to win, that you think are going to win for you and help the team win.
Yeah. The only counterpoint that I would have to that is someone like Anthony Leal, right, who came in and it didn't seem like he was going to impact the program too much, but then he sticks around because he's an Indiana guy, and so then his third, fourth, maybe even fifth year on campus, if he takes a red shirt or something like that, he becomes a very, very valuable piece to your program. And so you don't want to use a roster spot ideally on a guy who isn't going to play for 3 or 4 years. But there's always room for to me on the roster. There's always room for at least 1 or 2 guys who come in maybe as freshmen, maybe as sophomore transfers or something like that, who are not going to play immediately, but who could be developmental for you if you think you can convince them to stick around for a couple of years without playing. Right, I think that's something that Purdue, to use Matt Painter as an example, has been pretty good at, where they bring in guys and don't promise them playing time right away, but let them know you are in our long-term future, and they've gotten those guys to stick around pretty significantly. And so obviously Indiana guys who grew up rooting for Indiana, who grew up caring about Indiana, are going to be a significant piece of that group because they'll stick around because they're Indiana kids if you can convince them. Right. So I think there's always room for 1 or 2 guys on a roster like that where they're not in your plans for this year, but maybe for a year or 2 down the road. And I think Anthony Leal is a good example of why you have those guys, because they could blossom into really good players for you in a couple of years.
Yeah, so Michael says that Trent Sisley, Dorn, Drake, Miles, and Harris all have eligibility after next season. So there's 5 players that will be continuing on, which you add another 5 from the transfer portal, there's 10, and then whatever you want to recruit, 3 or 4 new freshmen. So that would put them right in line.
Yeah.
Up, and you could even bring in 5 freshmen. You can bring in as many as you wanted there because of the extended roster spots as well. So that doesn't seem about right. And it would, if they can get in and get it going, but especially if they can get those guys to hang around. So, but yeah, it's going to be interesting. But the great thing is it's going to be a fun season for Indiana fans, because first of all, they're going to start off the year with a football team that they know is going to be good. I've said this, and I put the hoax on them already. Not the hoax, but the jinx, I guess. A bowl game, it's not even a thought. I mean, the fact that I'm making that statement is crazy, but a bowl game is that's not even a thought. It's an afterthought. That's stuff that bigger programs you get to say, get to think, get to go into the season thinking. Bowl game is nothing more. We want more. We want a college football playoff spot again. So the mere fact Indiana's football projected win total is at 8.5 games.
Yeah.
8.5 games. They've won 8 games like 7 times in the history of the program, 8 or more. And the sheer fact that they're projected to win that, it is truly shows the change that has happened in that program. The respect that has happened in that program. Last year, the win total was 5.5. Big change.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've talked about this before, but I do think 8.5 is about right? Like you have games against Oregon, Penn State, Iowa, Illinois. You get one of those, you're probably over the 8.5, right? And then if you happen to lose all 4 of them, because those are all 4 really good teams, and then you end up 8-4 and you end up just under. But I think 8.5 is the right place to set the total if you're the Vegas odds makers, because I think the bets are going to be pretty similar on both sides. And you're right, that is absolutely a level of respect that this program has not had in the past. I think I saw that it was the highest win total projection for IU in like 100 years of Vegas doing preseason win total projections. So really, really impressive job, the job that Kurt Cignetti has done, not just obviously winning last year, but retooling this offseason so that people think, hey, this is a team that can sustain some success here. And you're absolutely right. I do think that a bowl game is not just the bare minimum anymore. It is something where going 6-6 would be pretty disappointing. Which again is
8-4 would be disappointing.
I think that's probably fair, because that means you didn't win any of the big games on your schedule. I think it's fair to hope that you can get at least 1 or 2 of those. And so I do think that is within the realm of possibility. And again, it does really show where they've come. Now, I will say for bowl games, one thing would be get to a bowl game would be great. Winning a bowl game would be great. Like if you go 8-4 this season, and then you go win like they don't call it the Outback Bowl anymore, the ReliaQuest Bowl. If you go 8-4, you win the ReliaQuest Bowl on January 1st. To me, that's a successful season. You finish 9-4. That's kind of what you want after going 11-2 in your first year. That there's some sustained success there, right? I think that would be a perfectly acceptable result for this season. And then you obviously have the 2026 recruiting class, which is shaping up very, very well. I think you have some momentum for the program going forward. So to me, that is the baseline level of success for this season. 8 wins in the regular season, bowl victory, and we say, hey, this program has some sustained success here.
Yeah, and it is a fresh thing for Indiana fans. And not only that, then that leads into a basketball season that you're curious about, but you're hopeful about. And no matter what, I think the Indiana fans are going to be uber supportive of this team, especially coming off of football. And I think that football can go back to the CFP. I really do. Now, they do have to win. I've said this over and over. They do have to win one of the big 3 road games for that to happen, either at Iowa, at Oregon, or at Penn State. If they go 10-2 with a win at Iowa, I think that's good enough for a CFP appearance, personally. Now, I don't know what others think of that, but I just, that has to be, to me. You've beaten. That means you would have beaten the top 10 Illinois team, who many think are a CP team, and you beat Iowa's going to be a good team. They have a quarterback that is going to be able to throw the ball. So, and if you win at Iowa, that's just a tough place to win, period. So a 10-2 record with those wins on the schedule, I think, is a CFP resume.
Yeah, to me, I would expect it to be. A lot of it would come down to, first of all, if Illinois is actually as good as people think. If Indiana wins that game and then Illinois goes and wins 9 games outside of that, if they're 9-3, then yeah, that really helps. And I think a lot of it, because as we saw last year, a lot of this from the committee is just vibes, right? So I think a lot of it would come down to how well they played. If you assume they go 10-2 with losses at Penn State and at Oregon, a lot of it would come down to how well you played in those losses. Did you lose by 14 or did you lose by 35? Right. And so I do think a lot of that, a lot of whether they make the CFP would come down to that, because the committee is obviously looking at that. We saw that last year. So I'm interested in that. I think that is a perfectly plausible situation. And I do think it's interesting because you talked about kind of the transition from football into basketball. You have the football season going until late November, right? That's the last week of the season is right at the end of November. And then the basketball season gets really ramped up right in early December when IU has games against Kentucky and Louisville in back-to-back weeks. So you kind of have that transition from, obviously the basketball season has started, but it really gets ramped up with those games against Kentucky and Louisville in December with teams that they haven't played in a little bit here that people are going to be really excited about. So that's pretty fun transition for Indiana fans there.
Yeah, and man, a win over one of the two would be sufficient, but it's going to be obviously tough to go down to Rupp Arena and pull out a win. Kentucky is piled up the players, man. They have brought in some good ones, and they are going to be a very, very good team. Louisville with Pat
Kelsey.
Yeah, Pat Kelsey, he has done the same. Man, he has built a really good roster. Both of those teams are going to be tough games, man. Tough.
Yeah. I think it's really interesting to me because Louisville and Kentucky were kind of in the same spot Indiana is now. They were there last year, right? They had complete and total roster flips. They had basically entirely new rosters, and they were able to come together pretty quickly. And so you're going to get to measure yourself a little bit against those guys, right? How did we do compared to how Louisville and Kentucky did last season? Now, Louisville and Kentucky this year have at least some guys back, but I think Kentucky has 10 newcomers again this year. So it really is one of those things where they are turning over their entire roster again, pretty much, and it's going to be another entirely new team. So can you gel? A lot of this is going to come down to, especially these December games, how quickly can you gel? Right? How quickly can you bring this team together? And some of that is going to come down to coaching, right? Like, first of all, did you bring in a roster that fits together just organically, right? And then how well did you get these guys ready to go for the season? I think we're going to see how good Darren DeVries is at that pretty early, because that is a skill. It really is. And Pat Kelsey was very, very good at it last year. Obviously in the Bahamas last season, Louisville was extremely good right away. And so that's the benchmark for Indiana. Can you be on that level in the first couple of weeks of the season? Now, you don't want to peak too early, but I think that is a fair question, is can you do what Louisville did and get off to a relatively hot start just by playing harder than everyone else? I think that is kind of a good benchmark for Indiana to start the season.
Absolutely. And it's going to be interesting because Indiana has built a team off of guys that what I call are not names. There's not all these, none of these names that were well known brought in. It has been a team that allegedly has been built on winners, guys that have won. You've got Sam Alexis, who won a national championship with Florida, and the guys that won conference titles, and the guys that were players of the year in their conferences or whatnot, and things like that, but not big names. So there should not be any of this, I'm such and such. And hopefully that is the exact kind of team that Darren DeVries can get put together, because it's going to have to be that way. This is a team that is not built with a 7-foot superstar, or you don't have a Danny Wolf or a name that is so. But the fact is, Danny Wolf was not that well known prior to coming to Michigan. Where did he come from? Yale.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, nobody's looking at Yale for the top players in the country. But yet he's going to be an NBA draft pick. So you never know who is going to be who was going to surprise you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, every year for the last 3 or 4 years now, since the portal started, we've had someone who transfers up and is not particularly high in the transfer rankings and becomes a superstar, right? We said, Dalton Connect is not exactly a great example because everyone knew how good he was going to be coming from Northern Colorado. But he was an extremely highly sought after recruit, but he came from Northern Colorado, right? Chaz Lanier, I think, is a pretty good example because he went from North Florida, and Indiana got 2 guys from North Florida this offseason. So there's always a couple of guys. Danny Wolf is a good example. Just a couple of guys who you look at him, it's like, well, where did he come from? He didn't play anywhere big before, and then they come in and they're extremely good players at the higher level, basically right away. And so there's a couple of guys like that every year. Indiana is just hoping that they have 1 or 2 of those guys on the roster, and we know basically to fill in around Tucker DeVries, who we know is a very, very good player. So and has proven it at a Power 5 level. So it's going to be one of those things where if you can just get 1 or 2 guys who really, really step up at the higher level, you are going to have a pretty explosive offense, a team that can play with just about anybody.
Absolutely. Dylan Sinn from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette joined us here today. That's going to wrap it up. Appreciate you, my friend. Go out and have yourselves a good day, Dylan.
Absolutely, Jim. Thanks for having me on, as always.
Appreciate you, brother. We'll see you soon.
All right.
We're back with more right after this.
If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemore@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. When it comes to apparel and promotions, Freethink has you covered, literally, whether it's 24 or 200 shirts for sports leagues, businesses, or groups. Freethink Apparel and Promotions can also create your very own merchandising store. Freethink Apparel and Promotions did it for Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and they can do it for you. Whether it's screen printing, embroidery, digital printing, promotional products, vehicle wraps, or anything else under the promotional line. See what Freethink Apparel and Promotions can do for you at freethinkapparel.com. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. Kyle Neddenriep from the Indy Star joins us now. Kyle, how are you doing, sir? Not sure he can hear me. We'll see. I think that he's having audio problems, but we'll wait till he gets
Jim,
going.
I can't hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can, but we'll wait till you get going when you can hear us. No problem. Just let Kyle keep working on that. But we can hear him fine, but he's having problems hearing us. So we'll wait till he gets his situation taken care of. But I'm looking over the IHSA basketball players that were in the transfer portal. Some of these names, of course. Now some of them are going to smaller schools, but Flory Badunga, who was going to leave Kansas, but ended up going back to, they were able to, I'm sure he got a sweet deal out of that. James Blackman, senior from Miami that should not say senior, from Miami of Florida, going to Marion. Let's see, Xavier Booker going from Michigan State to UCLA, staying in the staying in the Big Ten. So that'll be interesting. Miles Colvin from Purdue committed to Wake Forest. So big change there. Let's see. Ryan Conwell went from Xavier to Louisville. These are a lot of Indiana players that could have been grabbed. We'll see if when Kyle gets loaded up here in a second. Kyle, see if things are going better for you now.
Yes. Sorry, I couldn't hear you there.
No worries. That stuff happens all the time. That's technology is never our friend when we need it to be our friend. I was just looking over some of these names of Indiana players that have transferred. Tay Davis from Notre Dame to Oklahoma. I mean, some of these are big. With Conwell going to Louisville, that's a great move for him because Louisville is loaded. Miles Colvin, he went to Wake Forest. Kanan Catchins going from BYU to Georgia, which BYU is going to be very good. Xavier Booker from Michigan State to UCLA. Some big names on that list. But in Indiana, Connor Hickman going from Cincinnati to the College of Charlestown. A little bit of a drop. So not everything works out great when you hit the portal. And so for people that just understand that, and sometimes it's just because you realize that you're not going to get the playing time that you would like to have gotten.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's there's only so many spots to go around, and playing time is certainly part of that. Some players have worked their way up. Cam Hafner from Westfield's kind of an example of that. Who's gone to had a good couple of years at Evansville. Now he's at Western Kentucky, which I would say that's a step up in competition. It's just but yeah, I mean, a lot of the people we write about are the ones who do move up, but like Garway Dwall who played at Carmel, he was at Providence, Seton Hall, now at McNeese State. McNeese State's a great mid-major program, but probably a little bit of a drop as far as the level goes with especially the new coaching staff and everything. But that's a team also with several former 4-star prospects that they're going to be putting together there. So but yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of, different reasons. J.Q. Roberts didn't play much at Vanderbilt, now going to Davidson for playing time. So you got different levels of, or different reasons for transferring, different, way directions people go. Some of the ones at the top are maybe more of an NIL situation as well, which plays into it in this day and age. So, but yeah, I mean, all these are a little bit different reasons, and I guess the positive is that anymore with the NIL, it extends your playing career in college basketball for sure. I mean, a lot of these guys would be off playing probably overseas somewhere if they hadn't made the NBA. So you do get a chance to see these guys play college basketball longer than you used to.
And I was talking earlier about Indiana next season, how they're going to have some turnover because they had to fill a roster this season, and they obviously had to fill it through mostly through the transfer portal. There are about 5 guys, I think, that will be back that have extended years of eligibility. Trent Sisley, I think, is the only freshman on that list so far. And the question and curious is, will there be any Indiana guys to recruit next year? Normally there are, always some elite players. Who are going to be the guys next year to recruit out of the state of Indiana as freshmen?
You mean outside of Braylon Mullins? Joking.
I meant to recruit in the next recruiting class.
I know. I'm just messing.
Yeah. He's gone. I'm sure. I do wonder if there's been any attempt or anybody reach out. I don't know. Is that considered tampering? Is there such thing as tampering anymore?
Well,
I mean, Todd Leary, weeks ago, or when DeVries first got the job, said, "Hey, I'd be up at Braylon Mullins' house giving him a ride to school every day."
Yeah, I mean, I know the family fairly well. I think that ship, just the timing of it, the ship had kind of sailed because, he'd already been, obviously committed and signed for quite a while, and all those things were kind of in place for him to go to UConn at this point. Who knows how things would have worked out if timing was different and, if there was a different situation. But yeah, I mean, in this world, and I'm kind of joking when I say Braylon Mullen, but also, you never, depending on how his season goes at UConn, I would never rule out against him possibly coming back to IU. I know that's not his plan going into it, but
Right.
But yeah, I think it's, always something in the back of your mind. You're wondering maybe if that could happen at some point. But yeah, I mean, it depends how his freshman year goes at UConn, and I know he's doing everything. Here in a couple of weeks, he'll be taken off to go out there, and after he plays in the Indiana All-Star game. But yeah, I mean, it's in this world, you never rule anything out. But yeah, for next year's class, I mean, probably the top guy, is Luke Ertl, who's returning. He's committed to Purdue. I think his stock has only continued to rise. I was always a big Luke Ertl fan. I kind of figured that would happen. Playing well, I know, on the AAU circuit. This 26 class, it's Stephen Reynolds was probably the top prospect, or is the top prospect. He's going to be transferring because of his father's job. He's going to be leaving the state to go to down in Texas, Arlington, where his sisters will play and his dad will be assistant coach. So he's out of the state now, but I think will still be a guy who, I think his recruiting will be a lot of Midwest teams, still Big Ten teams. EJ Hazlitt too is also leaving the state. Talked to his dad last week. And it's funny, I talked to people about, EJ put out a kind of a thank you to Franklin Central on, I forget which day it was last week, but sort of a social media post. But it kind of read, I think people read that as like he was putting his name in the portal. Unfortunately, it kind of read that way. And then, but talked to his dad, he said, no, it's very much not the case. He's going to come with me and their family to Kankakee, where Ed got the head coaching football job, where he'd previously been an assistant. So EJ is also one of the top guys in the state. So he's leaving as well. I don't know. We could have more in that class leave to go to prep schools. I know there's some, obviously I hear some rumors. I'm not going to say anything about what I've heard because I don't know, at this point, who else will be leaving or if anybody will be. But I think a name that, Plainfield's Noah Smith is definitely a name that he's 6'8" and can really shoot it. Just has to get stronger. I mean, he's really a good player. I like him a lot. So I think he's a guy who could be high major. I think Kerryon Berry from Avon too is another name to know. Excuse me. Berry picked up an offer from Butler. I think it was either last week or the week before. Really like his game. He's a very explosive player. He came in from Louisville Trinity before this past season. Dikembe Shaw is another one from Crown Point. I think he's going to be a high major player, even if he doesn't maybe start out at that level in college, but I think he will be at some point. There's some more. Brendan Miller, Kai McGrew, both those guys played at Lawrence North last year. McGrew's at Fishers now. Both those guys I think have a chance. There's some others down. If you run down, Baron Walker from Noblesville just picked up a Indiana State offer yesterday. His teammate Justin Curry, I think, could also be a high major prospect. So I know people were a little down on this 26 class compared to 25. I kind of like this class. I think there's a lot of potential there, but obviously you do lose a couple guys leaving the state with Reynolds and Hazlitt leaving, and who knows who else. But yeah, I mean, there's some good players. It does, and I think there's some sleepers in there too, like the kid from Silver Creek, Dane Caldwell, who's 6'8". I saw him play a couple times this spring. I really like. I think he's a little bit under the radar, but he's got a chance. Julian Smith at Cathedral, really tough guard. So yeah, I mean, there are good players in that class. I don't know if Indiana will be in on them necessarily. I think some of these guys, they will be. I know they're interested in Noah Smith at Plainfield, but yeah, I mean, it's so much portal heavy now. These guys are kind of on the second tier to a certain extent.
And I know he's pretty young still. The Noah Washington kid down at New Albany is. Have you seen him play?
I have, yeah, I did. I only saw him. I saw him in person last summer. Talked to his dad quite a while. I actually ended up writing a story about him before his freshman year. But yeah, and I talked to him too. Super kid. I think he's got a chance for sure. He's a guy I didn't see play during the season, but I did watch him on video. I know he had a really good year. I'm not surprised. And that's not easy to do at the 4A level. So he come in as a freshman, and I don't know what exactly his stats were, but he had a good year. So yeah, I think he's a guy. He's a 2028 class, so obviously some time to go still with him, but yeah, he's going to be a good one. He already is good. I think he's only going to get obviously he's going to get stronger in those sorts of things physically that are going to help him. So, but yeah, I'm really high on him also.
Yeah, it's amazing to see that. But I started to wonder, is Indiana going to see not a brain drain, but a talent drain with prep schools? And you talked about the guys that having to move out of town, but a lot of prep schools are drawing kids now. And then you just had Kevin Boyle leave Montverde and go to Spire University. It's pretty damn close to a university, Spire Academy up in Cleveland, which is obviously very close, which will give him access to a lot of the Midwest players and offers and whatnot. So I just wonder, will we continue to see this talent drain from Indiana?
Yeah, I think so. These cases for these two guys I mentioned are a little bit different because their dad's got jobs, so they're moving because of that reason. I don't know if EJ wasn't going anywhere. I mean, it makes me feel old. I covered Ed, his dad, at Warren Central when he was in high school, and I talked to him, and he said, there was no way, we weren't going anywhere unless I would have got this job, or EJ wasn't transferring. This is not a portal situation. He's a super loyal kid, and they were loyal to Franklin Central, and this is only because Ed got this job, and so that was different. And obviously Stephen Reynolds is that way too. But yeah, I think there are going to be, and like I said, I know there's some rumors out there about some of these other in-state kids, and there's always those rumors. There's these prep schools are always going to try to get these talented players. That's what they do. So there is some of that out there, and I have nothing against kids doing what they think is best. I don't know if it helps. I don't know if it's something that in every case you could say it is a good thing depending on where you go. I know Trent Sisley was very high on his experience at Montverde, so but that's not always the case. But yeah, I mean, I'm glad for Trent. I think he had a good year. I mean, obviously it worked out for him, and or he felt it did. So that's the most important thing. But yeah, I don't think there's any way we won't. Even like Brandon Mullins staying is kind of an upset. That normally that's not the case for these kids with high profile opportunities.
Yeah, 2 out of the 3 top players in the state both played at academies this year. Jalen Harrelson also going to La Lumiere. And both of them taking themselves out of the running for Mr. Basketball and Indiana All-Star selections, which that stinks as well. It would be nice if the All-Stars would, if you actually still live in the state of Indiana or from Indiana, I don't know, it'd be a way to work that out. But it's a shame that those guys don't get to do that because they're both deserving of being on those teams.
Yeah, that ain't going to happen because
no, it's not. They are trust me, I know, because the people that are staunchly against that. It is a definite. So when you say that, I understand.
Yeah. 1 year, Hunter Perea was a junior, and he was at La Lumiere, I believe. That's been many years, but they put him on the junior all-star team. And then, and I was kind of like, hey, yeah, there's no rule against it. There was nothing in writing at that time that said like, hey, you couldn't. But yeah, that didn't go over well with the coaches. And the next year they put in a rule saying you had to be an ISA member school. So that changed that and probably changed it forever. I don't see that even if you're losing your top 5-6 guys to prep schools and they're all playing a lot of the mirror, I don't think that'll happen. Just because the coaches kind of run the, and they're obviously in support of kids staying in their hometown high schools or, in the IHSA schools. So, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what I'm kind of split on it because I do get it when kids do it. I always say this. I mean, selfishly, I love for him to stay because I get a chance to see him play all the way. Like Braylon, right. I really enjoyed that, being able to watch him as a senior and all these crowds that showed up and how much it did for Greenfield. And so I selfishly like it when they stay, but I'm not against, not like I have a bad relationship with people who leave. I don't feel that way strongly personally about it, but yeah, from a professional standpoint and covering them, I love it when they stay.
Yeah, absolutely. Big changes at Greenfield, right? Greenfield Central, new coach. Is that right?
Yeah, Luke stepped down. Luke is the strength coach now, and for now he's going to stay at Greenfield. I shouldn't say for now. I mean, that's going to be his job. I don't know.
He went from the basketball coach to the strength coach.
Yeah. I think he was ready to. This group had come through. He'd been there, I think, 6 years, and I think after it's basically a start over situation. Because they not only lost Braylon, but their whole starting group and really everybody who played a lot was a senior. So it's kind of a reboot and probably a good time if Luke was wanting to get out to do it now. And they got a really good coach, Miles Weyer. I know people may not, know him as a head coach, but I've seen him coach. He's been at Fisher's the last 3 years with Garrett Weiniger and, really smart young guy. He's a local guy from Mount Vernon, played at Mount Vernon, went to Indy, and then kind of got into coaching and training. And he does a lot of their skill development work, and I think he'll be really good at but they're going to be starting over basically. But I think he's a good, at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, I think he's going to do really well in his coaching career.
We'll certainly see. What's up next for you?
Miscellaneous, covering track this week, girls track last night, boys sectionals are tomorrow, and then helping out with Pacers on Sunday. What is that, Sunday night when they come home? They start
game 3.
Yeah, they start game 1 tonight at New York, but yeah, so helping out with that and doing high school stuff. I keep mentioning working on a project that we made some more headway yesterday, so we're a couple weeks out still with that, but that'll be coming pretty soon, and look forward to being able to talk more about that when we get there.
Absolutely. Kyle Neddenriep from the Indy Star. Make sure you're giving him a follow, keeping up with all that's going on in the high school world of Indiana athletics. Appreciate you, my friend.
You bet. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you, sir. We've got lots more coming up, including the captain, Rick Bozich from WDRB.com. Next, here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio from the Hard Truth Distilling Company Studios.
The ISC Sports Network is your home for sports content across the Hoosier State. Find us live on TV and streaming or archived on our website and our app. The ISC is your one-stop shop for the content you want to see, including high school sports, college sports, and other great events throughout the year. Subscribe to our streaming service and get access to it all. ISC, local lives here.
Know a team or group needing a fundraiser? Boost Fundraising raises more money faster and offers the most unique and user-friendly online fundraiser in the nation. Your team receives personalized fundraising pages for each team member. Free team-branded promo gifts shipped to each donor. Boost Fundraising does it all. Sports teams, marching bands, charity causes, and community groups. Go to boostfundraising.com and be sure to enter the promo code COYLE, that's C-O-Y-L-E, to receive a discounted fundraiser. If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemore@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today. When it comes to apparel and promotions, Freethink has you covered, literally, whether it's 24 or 200 shirts for sports leagues, businesses, or groups. Freethink Apparel and Promotions can also create your very own merchandising store. Freethink Apparel and Promotions did it for Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and they can do it for you. Whether it's screen printing, embroidery, digital printing, promotional products, vehicle wraps, or anything else under the promotional line. See what Freethink Apparel and Promotions can do for you at freethinkapparel.com. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company Studios, Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle. I love it. Every Wednesday we get to speak to the man, Rick Bozich. How are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you doing, Jim?
I cannot complain. Just waiting for all the things that are happening coming up this month. A lot of we've already had the Derby, several other events, and now we got Indianapolis 500 coming up. We've got Hubers next Wednesday as well. So just a lot happening in this month of May.
Yeah, it's a busy month, as you mentioned, Derby and Preakness, which was a great race on Saturday. I don't know if you watched it or not, but it was.
You know what? I missed it.
You should go back and watch it. It's one of the best races I've seen in a number of years.
Wow.
The horse who was the favorite and got beat in the Derby by Sovereignty was well behind in the Preakness. They came around the turn, and there was a hole about this big, and the jockey squeezed through it, and the jockeys were throwing elbows at each other, and the horses kind of waved a little bit to the right, and you thought somebody was going to go down, and journalism powered through, and then looked like he was still beat because he was 4 or 5 lengths behind, and he caught the second place horse, ended up being Gosger, about, I don't know, 10 yards from the wire and won by like a neck.
I can't believe I missed it, but part of it is it's too damn close to the Derby. I don't think
right.
I keep forgetting that it's there, and so I hate that I missed that. But daggone it sounds like a great. I will go back and watch that because Journalism was a great horse, and any other year probably is a Derby winner. But just daggone, he had a good run in that. But yeah, I'll go back and look at that.
Now they'll meet again 2 weeks from this coming Saturday in the Belmont. Although the Belmont this year is at Saratoga because Belmont Park has been renovated.
Is it the same length?
No, it's only 1.25 miles. It's the Derby length. It was that way last year, and it'll be again that way next year. It's a 3-year renovation going on at Belmont Park.
Why don't they just make it a longer race? They can just extend it to the starting spot.
No, they can't because of the size of the racing surface. They don't want make horses go around 3 turns. So it's just 1.25 miles.
Oh, well, 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, well, that's just, doesn't that change history? I mean, winning the Belmont at 1.5 miles and 1.5 miles is a huge difference between 1.25 miles.
Yeah. I mean, the only way it really became an issue is somebody would have won the Triple Crown. People would say you didn't really win the real Belmont, but that didn't happen last year, and it's not going to happen this year. So it's still a good test at 1.25 miles. And the good thing is for the Belmont is you got some intrigue because it'll be the rubber match between, Sovereignty. Well, not really the rubber match because they only face each other once, but they'll decide who the best horse of the 3-year-old early in the year is, Sovereignty or Journalism. And Baeza, the horse who ran a really good race and finished 3rd in the Derby, but also passed on the Preakness, is going to be there. So the top 4 finishers from the Derby are all going to be in the Belmont.
And that horse was coming.
Baeza is a stretch runner, yeah.
Had that been the old Belmont, he would have won because he was rolling, man. Right. So that will be interesting, and it'll be interesting for the other 2 horses because with it being 1.25 miles, so that's going to be plus the fact that Journalism will have raced in all 3 races without taking a break. That shows some gumption to me. I mean, wow, he's a true runner.
Yeah, you got to give credit to the owners and to the trainer into taking on the challenge and moving forward because he's also raced twice in California starting the first weekend in April. So this will be his his 5th race in less than 3 full months. So he's doing it the old school way.
So who do you see in the Belmont, since it's a 1.25 miles?
I'm going to stick with Sovereignty since I picked him in the Derby.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. One.
Oh,
yeah.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you. One.
Did you bet it? Did you bet him?
I
Probably did not.
I like the fact that he ran down journalism in the Derby, and I also like the fact that when he didn't go to the Preakness, he went straight to Saratoga, and he's been there now, settled in for a couple of weeks. It's kind of his home track. He's very comfortable at that track, and Bill Mott's a heck of a trainer. So I'll stick with Sovereignty.
I wish I would have. I guess, did we not talk about the Derby? I know we did.
I think we did. Yeah.
Did you mention that? I can't remember.
Thought I did. I mean, I wrote about it 2 or 3 times. I went out and
I'm an idiot.
I got 3 different people that I really trust in racing, because I got tired of picking the loser and asked them to help me handicap the race, and they all came back and said they thought Sovereignty was the winner. And
Man,
I should have bet it myself. I'm an idiot.
I'm an idiot. I'm like, oh man, gee whiz! I didn't bet the. I don't think I bet the Derby either.
It's been a good Triple Crown series. The last few years, we've had horses win who probably weren't the best 3-year-old. As I mentioned, I think when we talked about it before, the previous 3 years, the horse that won the Derby never won another horse race the rest of his career. I don't think we're that situation this year. I think Sovereignty and Journalism are, if they can stay healthy, will go on and be really good horses all year, and they'll probably meet again in the Travers or the Haskell or the Breeders' Cup Classic.
Yeah, that they both seem like they are very, very, very good horses that are going to continue to succeed. Speaking of succeeding, both Louisville and Kentucky have succeeded in rebooting their teams, both on Indiana's schedule. So that's going to be interesting. All 3 with basically new rosters on their teams. Well, I guess Louisville doesn't really have a new roster. They've just added to what they had. But Kentucky adds a lot of guys, and they continue to add guys. They've added a 4-star high school forward in Braden Hawthorne. So a lot of good stuff going on for those programs.
Yeah, I mean, Kentucky looks a little bit stronger than Louisville at this point. Mark Pope really has gone out and filled every spot. He's got a full roster, and some highly rated guys. He's got some highly rated high school guys and some highly rated portal guys. Louisville's main addition from the high school ranks is Michael Brown, the guy that I know that Mike Woodson tried to get. He's a point guard, really good. He'll take over for Chucky Hepburn, and they loaded up on shooters in the portal. All their 3 big additions from the portal are all 40% or better 3-point shooters. So that'll be a challenge for IU. Louisville's got a little bit more of an issue. Their starting center, James Scott, who had a very solid year and came from Charleston with Pat Kelsey, kind of, to a lot of people, unexpectedly left about 3 or 4 weeks ago. He's going to Ole Miss. So they're not as strong up front as they thought they were going to be. And their main center, a kid by the name of Ali Khalifa, who came from BYU and sat out last year, initially has been denied his 5th year of eligibility, and he's going through the appeals process right now. So if he doesn't get cleared to play, they could be a little light in the front court.
Yeah, it's that would be amazing to lose to the NCAA. What is the issue for him?
They said he's already used his 5 years of eligibility, which I don't. I mean, he redshirted legitimately his first year. Then I think he played, I don't know if it was 1 year at Charlotte or 2 years at Charlotte, but he played, let's say, just 1 year at Charlotte, 2 years at BYU. So that's 4 years. And then last year he had a medical issue and he missed last year. So that was his 5th year. It seems like to me he should be eligible.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
And I'm sure if he's got an attorney, the school has an attorney, I'm sure if they push it pretty hard, he'll be cleared.
Yeah, that should not be a problem. Louisville picks up Ryan Conwell, a former Indiana kid, adding to their roster. Yeah.
And that's one that that's a pretty good pickup.
That's a really good pickup. He was one of the best guards in the Big East last year. He's a fourth-year player. He's succeeded at Xavier. He succeeded at Indiana State. And then they got Isaac McNeely, who I think Indiana recruited a little bit when he was in high school. He was I'm not sure they ever got him to visit, but they tried to get him to. He's from West Virginia. He's played 3 years at Virginia. Really good three-point shooter. And then the third one is a kid from Kennesaw State who was a freshman last year. He was the best freshman in Conference USA, and he's supposed to be a really good player. So they got a really strong backcourt. They got four or five really good guards and wings.
So quality, you had a piece about the I think it was yours. So I'm gonna make sure it was you, not Eric. Yeah, about ranking these portal classes of these 3 programs, and Evan Miyakawa, who has he's been on with us before as well. He believes that quality is more valuable than quantity, which that sounds like Kurt Signetti's mantra of production over potential, and I have to agree with that. So I do wonder, Indiana's class is kind of a mysterious class. We don't know. I guess that's the best thing to say. They're a mysterious class. We just don't know, because there were no names, quote unquote names, other than say Tucker DeVries, maybe, that you know what you're getting for sure. So it's going to be interesting to see what Indiana can do, because these other teams have looked like they have landed pretty good classes, and that they have put together really good programs. But you don't want to underestimate, say, an Indiana as an example, because of what Indiana football did last year. We had the same thought of that, like, oh, they're bringing in a bunch of mid-major guys, these guys from James Madison and all these other mid-major schools, but worked out pretty good. I don't know if that's going to be the case next year, if it matters, because this is a team that's being how it's put together and how they gel. But it is going to be interesting to see if Indiana can overcome the lack of quote unquote star power.
Yeah, I generally agree. I mean, I think that in addition to Tucker DeVries, the kid from Davidson, is his name Reed Bailey? Is that his name?
Yeah, 6'10" guy.
I think he's pretty proven. He was one of the top players in the A10 conference, which is it's not the Big East or the SEC or the Big Ten, but it's a decent league. He proved himself there, and he's got a kind of a unique skill set where he's a big guy who can play out on the floor. After that, it will be a lot of guys who have to prove they can play at the Big Ten level. I know there's a lot of good video on the Wilkerson kid from Sam Houston State, and he played a solid game against IU, but stepping up against better competition and better guards night in and night out. And is it the Connerway kid? Is he from Troy? Maybe I can't keep them all straight. That he's going to be the point guard. He looks
Connor
like
Enright.
No,
Connor Enright.
Connor Enright's the kid from DePaul. There's a kid named last name is Connerway or something
For Indiana.
Yeah, he's a recruit. I think he's coming in.
Oh yeah. Troy. He came from Troy.
Yeah, he's got a really high assist rate, and then he's got a really high steals rate. I don't think he's a very good shooter, but he looks like he could be a solid player. Maybe not he's not going to be a Jordan Hulls or a Yogi Ferrell, but he could be a solid point guard. But after that, that's the 2 North Florida kids and some others. There's a bit of a drop off in terms of how good they are. And I am surprised that I've mentioned this before. The 2 things that have surprised me about this is they didn't get any high school kids who decommitted elsewhere to come, which usually happens. And secondly, that none of the players from West Virginia, other than Coach DeVries' son, followed him here. That usually happens. So that's the big difference between this and what you're talking about with Signetti. When Signetti came, he brought his entire staff and 8 or 9 players.
Yep.
From James Madison. And this is like, nope, 1 guy off the staff, maybe an operations guy, and then 1 player. So it's not the same.
Well, one of the staffers got a head coaching job, which had Indiana ties.
But yeah, I agree.
He
And
brought
a
his
lot of
strength.
people.
Didn't he bring his strength guy? Maybe.
Yeah. Brought a strength guy and Nick Dorn and
Nick Norton.
Nick Norton. But well, yeah, and so yeah, a lot of people were wondering the same thing about the players. Why none of those guys that were committed, even the commits came. Much less players that there were commits to West Virginia.
3 of them,
that
yeah.
also did not follow either, which is it's strange. I don't know that I've ever seen it not happen. Usually, 1 or 2 of those guys follow.
Well, we'll be able to ask him that at Huber's, I'm sure. And if I had to guess, my feeling is this: that there's already some sensitivity there about him coming here and his son coming with him. So maybe he thought the best thing to do is not bring any of the West Virginia guys and anger the West Virginia people anymore. Could be. I don't know.
Yeah, there was a lot of backlash, but why is it? There's always backlash. I mean,
there's always backlash.
And it's I'm sorry, it's West Virginia. You're not a bastion of basketball, so get over it.
Yeah, they shouldn't feel that bad. They weren't afraid to approach Signetti last year and take him away from Indiana after 1 year. They didn't get him, but they tried to. Right?
See, there you go. So it's funny. Yeah, it is what it is, and everybody's going to have sour grapes, especially now because you got guys that just leave, players that leave all the time. So I think, but that tells you that should be a good feeling for Indiana fans that West Virginia was so upset. Why were they that upset after just a single year? They must have saw good things coming with what the program was moving in, I would assume.
Yeah, I think they did. I think they thought he was a good coach and did some good things. And then, his son got injured and that hurt what kind of season they could have before. They were the surprise team of that tournament in the Bahamas. I mean, they beat Gonzaga the first game, then they lost to Louisville, and then they won the third game. I think if that's what the way
yeah, they had
nobody
a
was
great
picking
run.
them to finish third in the Bahamas before it started, and they were awful the year before. Awful.
And so this is a team that I'm really looking forward to seeing because they're going to have to do everything. They're not going to be able to rely on one thing. This is not going to be a team that can rely on a 3-point shooting. They're going to have to play defense. They're going to have to do all of the things that you have to do to win a basketball game because they don't have guys that are just prolific at this. They don't have a prolific 3-point shooter that I'm aware of. They don't have a prolific guy that can get to the rim. They don't have a prolific shot blocker. They just have guys that will work hard, but they have a bunch of guys that are going to have to work together. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this team is able to put all this together. They have to gel. And they have to gel faster than probably many other teams because they don't have that prolific guy or that superstar.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, they definitely need that's why they're going to Puerto Rico to kind of figure out how well they play together and who they've got and what their weak.
Oh, are they going to Puerto Rico? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think they're doing a summer trip to Puerto Rico. Hasn't it been announced?
I'm kidding. It had not been announced, and we had I've had 2 different players on here, and they both have mentioned it, and I just laughed because I've left it alone. And
they really haven't announced any of the staff members other than the strength coach, Nick Norton, right?
I know it's been funny.
They've never officially announced Kenny Johnson, even though he's on the road recruiting, and Drew Adams and the Rod Clark, the guy from Tennessee.
Yeah,
it's been announced, right?
No, it's been weird, and it's funny when I talk to reporters at other places. I mean, you included, but no, we can, like at Purdue, they get to go to practice. Not every practice, I don't think, but they get to go to practice. They get to talk to the guys. They can talk to them over here. They don't have people like standing over them, and that's not the case for us. I guess is all I'll say.
I mean, it's not the case at Louisville, Kentucky either. So, I mean,
it used to be at Louisville, so it must have changed recently.
I mean, Coach Crum would let you come into practice, and he'd stop. Well, when he wouldn't stop practice, but he would walk away from practice and stand on the sidelines and talk to you and say, "What do you need, Rick?"
He did the same to me after a practice once. Yeah, and the locker rooms were open for a long time at Louisville.
Until Chris Mack got here, the locker room was open.
Oh, is that right? He changed that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's never reopened. And Kentucky has a better situation, too. They bring 3 players out after the game and post them in this room in different spots so you can sort of talk to them individually for at least a little bit. It's not just up at some podium, which is basically worthless.
Yeah. Yes, it is. It is changed. I'm not sure people don't understand. Why don't you ask this and why don't you ask that? Well, trust me, there are questions that I think we know that we can ask. It's not that we can't ask, that we know we're not going to get an answer to, or a BS answer. So there's no point in asking it sometimes.
Well, generally, you only get a chance to ask one question.
There's no follow-up, because you'll ask a question and they don't really answer that. They answer it in the way that they want to answer it, but they don't answer the question. You do not get the chance to follow up and re-ask that question.
Yeah, and with the players, I kind of feel sorry for them, because it's got to be awkward and uncomfortable for young guys to sit up there and look out at all those people there and be asked questions. It's easier. I always thought it was easier in a locker room to have a conversation with somebody. Sometimes it's just 1 or 2 people talking to the guy, and you can make eye contact and go in there, 5 or 6, 10 games in a row. And so you actually get to know Bobby Wilkerson, or you got to know Ray Talbert, or I got to know Rodney McRae or Purvis Ellison or Jim Master at Kentucky or Kenny Walker. I'm walking at the Derby this year over to the barn area, and there's Kenny Walker in the stands yelling at Rick, only because I covered him for 4 years and talked to him in the locker room, and you kind of know him. But the schools don't want it to be that way anymore. They don't really want you to be able to know the players, because they're afraid of letting them do interviews. It's not just at Indiana. It's pretty much everywhere. I think I told you this before. The only schools that I know of that, and Purdue might be an exception, I haven't covered a Purdue game. The only schools that I know of that open the locker rooms in basketball after games anymore are St. John's, because Pitino believes in it, Duke, and North Carolina. That's it. Everywhere else, they don't do it.
And I really don't know what they're afraid of, because your credentials are at stake if you have any sense of what you're doing. And I am never going to put someone in a position that I know is a bad position that will cost them or me. I'm smart enough not to do that. And if there's people in there that's not smart enough, then they shouldn't be credentialed.
Yeah, I guess part of it is in some places the locker rooms are too small and they can't handle the crowd. But it's just a different world than it used to be, where, they're not as trusting. They have their own media operation, their social media operation, and they try and save the best content for themselves, and so they can put videos up on their social media sites.
That happens a lot at Indiana now.
It happens at Louisville, Kentucky too. I mean,
they're using their Hoosier Connects, the NIL portion. They do it a lot. You'll see the coaches. All of the new coaches will be on there, but not made accessible to the media. And so, that's where they are. And to me, though, I'll use Indiana as an example. They have a media school, but yet we get locked out of a lot of the good stuff. So it's kind of weird. And
it's not just Indiana. It's
no. I know that
almost everywhere. And that's why it's such I'm surprised it really hasn't changed yet. That's why it's such a jarring transition. In the NCAA tournament, the locker rooms are open, and it's like it's some bizarre moment, like
bizarro world.
We get to return to the way it used to be and actually go into the locker room and talk to people. And when Louisville played in Rupp Arena, I mean, it was great. I mean, we could go in there and talk to guys, and you get better stories and ask 3 or 4 questions in a row and develop whatever stories you're thinking about. And nobody got hurt. Nobody got embarrassed. We all survived just fine. But they're not going to open the locker rooms.
I will say with Indiana, it's rough too, because they have the media school. So there's 1,000 students that are doing things, and that just doubles the amount of people that are trying to do that. And
True.
So that's that. Hey, Rick Bozich from WDRB.com with us. We got to take a break from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. Back with more on the other side.
Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue, and you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemore@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today.
Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth Sour Mash Bourbons, Sweet Mash, and Hard Road Rye, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular Toasted Coconut Rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Wednesday. Glad to have you along and happier to have Rick Bozich from WDRB.com. Man, it's a chilly day. I cannot believe we are this close to June and still in the 60s. So,
yeah, you know, I went out and walked the dog this morning, had to put on a long sleeve shirt, and I was watching White Sox game last night, and people were huddled. The 17 people who were actually there were huddled up in blankets in the grandstand.
I wonder how many people were actually there.
It wasn't many. They had an hour and a half rain delay before the game started, so it looked like less than 5,000.
How are the Sox doing? I know that
they're slightly better than last year. They're on a pace to win 49 and a half games. They won 41 last year, so they're a little better, but not much. They just got routed over the weekend by the other Chicago team.
Hey, they're Baltimore is not doing any better. And
Baltimore's won the same amount of games as the White Sox, and Baltimore has good players.
Yeah, and didn't they win the division last year? Or no?
They won it the year before. Last year they were a wild card team and got beat in the playoffs. But yeah, they've already fired their manager. They're the biggest disappointment in baseball by far.
Well, right behind them has to be the Colorado Rockies. They haven't even won double digits yet. They're 8-40. 8-40. That's 16. That's 16%.
That's worse than the White Sox pace last year. So the White Sox record might be broken in 1 year.
I mean, how can you be 8-40 as a professional team? This doesn't seem possible.
You know, when you don't put out major league players in the lineup, you're not going to win. That's what the situation is.
Cincinnati mired as they're at the Mendoza line, 25-25. I thought they were going to be a little bit better than that, man. But the Cardinals fans have to be happy after dwelling in the cellar for a few years. They're just 2 games behind the Chicago Cubs, who are leading the Central Division.
Milwaukee down in 5th. So the Central is going to be a fun division to watch. The Cubs, the Cardinals, and the Reds all sitting there fighting. That's going to be a fun year.
Yeah, the Reds have been a strangely bad team on offense. I thought they'd be better than this. They haven't hit the way they're supposed to hit. Maybe they'll turn it around when the weather gets warmer, but it'll be interesting to see how many games out are the Reds right now.
4.5.
4.5. I mean, if they can hang in there when they get closer to the trading deadline, will the Reds be aggressive and try and pick some pieces up and go after it? You're only going to have some of the young players that they have are only going to be a cheap for a couple of years. Then once they hit arbitration,
how long do they have Eli De La Cruz? Another year after this, maybe?
No, you control a guy for 6 seasons, so I think he's got one more year without arbitration, so he won't get expensive until the 2027 season. I mean, a little bit expensive, but they'll have to start paying him real money in 2030. So you'll have to trade him before then to get value out of him.
It is fun. It is cool to look at the National League standings because you've got some teams that the Braves, they're 6 games out of first place in the National League East.
Yeah.
Philadelphia
they started 0-8 though, and Ronald Acuna is actually still playing in the minor leagues, coming back from a rehab assignment, so they're going to get better.
And to see the Cubs on top of the Central Division and Milwaukee down in 4th, 5 games out, a little different.
Milwaukee's lost a lot of pitchers over the last few years because they don't want to spend, either they can't or they don't want to spend money on pitchers. And you can maybe take a hit one time, but you can't take 2 or 3 hits. It's baseball is such a weird game in that it's too many of the really good players are concentrated on 3 or 4 franchises. And I know that they try and claim that, different teams win every year, but I mean,
the Dodgers are still in first.
The Dodgers, the Yankees, the Mets, the Red Sox, and the Cubs have most of the good players. I mean, very rare are there other teams that can hold on to their good guys. Maybe 1 or 2, but not very many. And it's just not financially, it's just not a fair playing field the way it is in the NFL or the way it is in the NBA. And I think I've told you this before, that the contract between baseball players and the teams expires after next season, 2026. And the behind the scenes chatter is that there's a new group of younger owners who really want to have a salary cap in baseball. And the players in baseball have always taken pride in the fact that they're the only sport that hasn't had a salary cap, and they will be willing to strike on it. And some people think the 2027 season could be lost because of it. And if they do that, I mean, they risk really putting baseball in a terrible position because they already lost a lot of fans from the 1994 strike and a bunch of other stuff that's gone on. So if I were them, I would tread carefully on doing that.
Yeah, both sides. I mean, because both sides will lose in that case. And the fans lose and everybody loses, and the TV networks. What do the TV networks do in that situation?
I don't remember what they did in 1994.
Oh, will we be back to COVID when we're watching
the Korean League?
Korean League with sex dolls in the stands?
I don't know what
you remember that.
I don't remember what we did. Yeah, I remember. I what we do in '94. That was so bad that year. Remember, they didn't even play the World Series. They canceled. They stopped the season in July, and didn't play the last 2 months, and canceled the postseason, which is the worst decision in the history of professional sports. If you want to make people hate your sport, that's a good way to do it.
It seems like that's an impossibility. Something that's that large that it's impossible to not happen.
You'd think so, but baseball's had more strikes than any other sport. I mean, in the NFL, when players go on strike, their owners have crushed them every time. I mean, they have.
Well, and it seems like these guys, I know that they make so much money. Baseball players make so much money that a lot of them can afford to strike for a year. It doesn't impact them, I guess, as much as others. But
there are a lot of players that don't make that kind of money too.
And it's been a very unforgiving game. I mean, a couple times when they tried to have teams with minor league players and stuff, even in spring training, any major league player who decided to break the union and go play was then identified as a scab and treated, once the strike was over, they were treated pretty harshly by the unionized players.
Let's see. Athletics are in last place. I guess Billy Ball, that was on last night. I was watching it till I fell asleep, I think. Billy Bean trying to make his moves. But where is he now?
He's still with Oakland. No, well, they're not Oakland anymore. They're Sacramento. He's still there.
They're in Sacramento. I didn't even know that.
They're playing in the minor league park in Sacramento where the clubhouses are out in the outfield. They have to walk across the field when the game's over to take their shower. 3 years in Sacramento, and Tampa's playing in the Yankees spring.
Weren't they trying to move to Las Vegas?
They are supposedly moving to Las Vegas, but they haven't even started building the stadium yet. They haven't been able to reach an agreement, so who knows what's going to happen.
That's crazy. You have a professional team without a home.
It's more reason that I fear for the future of baseball when you allow stuff like that to happen. I mean, Tampa's playing their games in the Yankees spring training park because the dome got destroyed in the
well, that's
hurricane.
more understandable, at least. I mean, that was an act of God. This is just being done because of
greed.
So there's no agreement on a stadium there. That's crazy.
I don't think the owner of the A's and the government in Las Vegas have reached an agreement on who's going to actually pay for how much of the stadium or the development around the land. So there's I might be wrong because I haven't followed it day to day, but the last I heard, there's no they would come to Indianapolis or come to Nashville or something. Yeah.
There you go. What's up next for you, brother?
Really going to get into the NBA playoffs. I watched a little bit last night with Oklahoma City dominating Minnesota, and then I'm obviously curious tonight. The Pacers take on the Knicks in New York, 2 games, and then they come back to Indy. And Pacers have been a really good story with got a young team, 10 guys who play a lot, and you got Thomas Bryant going against OG Anunoby. I've got a column coming up on that later today at WDRB.com.
Yep, there's also one on that very issue at thehoosier.com out right now with some quotes from Tom Crean in it. But make sure you check out Rick's piece at WDRB.com and everything that he has there. Appreciate you, my friend. As always, I look forward to it.
All right. Enjoy the weekend. Enjoy the race.
You as well, brother. Appreciate you. And that's going to wrap it up for us today. Appreciate each and every one of you for joining us on the program. We're back tomorrow to do it again. Until then, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.